You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
Welcome to the Hot Options Report, your premier source for insight into the fast-moving options market. Each day, we'll track down the products that are dominating the options chains and impacting your trading account, from Nvidia to VIX and everything in between. If it's lighting up the options tape, then you'll find it on the Hot Options Report.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back, ready to wrap up your trading week with our final Hot Options Reports. Coming at you for Friday, November 14th. Hope you had a great trading week out there. Certainly a wild end to a wild week out there, listeners, with the markets starting off pretty firmly in the red before rallying to close mixed on the day. Another wild one. We'll break it all down. My name, of course, Mark Longo from the OptionsInsider.com, as well as on the network upon which all of you folks are binging these days. And while you're checking things out online, make sure you're checking out the HotOptionsReports.com. That is literally the place you can go to get all this data we're talking about today and a whole bunch more. We just scratched the surface here. If you want to check out all the data for yourselves, the Hot Options Report, the place to go to learn more. As you learn what's lighting up the tape out there, I said it was a spicy day in the markets. That usually translates into some spice on the vol front, and that was the case. VIX cash coming back to earth a little bit after popping north of the 20 handle, closing the day a little bit shy of it, 1983, off about 0.17 on the day. But volume-wise, VIX roaring back to life. Almost 1.3 million contracts changing hands in VIX land against an ADV of 926, so a very active day. The hot option out there, 76,000 of the Nove 25 calls. Average price for these, 45 cents. So if you think we have more upside to come, listeners, maybe you think that's a screaming deal as we keep on rolling out to the land of SPY, listeners. SPY closing off a little over 0.1% on the day after starting the day off. Just a wild day out there, listeners. SPY closing off only slightly, about 0.11%. 671.93 is where it went out. But a wild day on the volume front. Nearly 11 million contracts changing hands against an ADV of around 9 3/4. So a pretty hot day. The hot option on a hot day, 465,000 of these 675 calls. Average price for these, about 79 cents. So another one, if you rode them to the close, maybe not the happiest of campers out there. As we keep on rolling out to the S. The S, like we said, selling off at one point 100 handles to start the session before ending the day. Pretty much only off slightly, off 0.05%. So a wild intraday swing in the S&P 500. Closing 67.34.11 and putting up nearly 5 million contracts, about 4.87 million against an ADV of about 4.3 million. So fully 500,000 more than we expect out there. And the hot option on a hot day in the S, 104,000 of these 67 half calls. Average price for these, over $9, $9.04. So again, talking about that whipsaw action, we were up for a while there on the day, listeners. So obviously, if you bought these calls, you were hoping for a more aggressive close to the day. If you rode them through the end of the day, maybe not the happiest of campers as we keep on rolling out to small caps. Small caps also whipsawing all over the place today. Ended up closing up slightly, up 0.2%. 237.5 is where they went out, putting up 1 3/4 million. That's actually slightly off of the ADV of 1.85 million. The hot option out there today, 86,000 of the 225 puts, but these are not today, not expiring in November, all the way out to December, 225 puts. Once again, longer term downside lighting up the tape in small caps. Average price for these, $3.68. So they're not giving them away, but you're getting some duration for that. Again, Are you liking a little bit of longer term downside in small caps, listeners? Looks like somebody was as we keep on rolling out to the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ closing the day almost literally unched. A wild swing in the NASDAQ as well. Going out 608.86, putting up 6.28 million contracts. That's fully a million more than the ADV, which is 5.26. So a very active day out there. The hot option out there today, 218,000. Of the 610 puts, average price for these about $1.50. So if you rode these to the close, you looked all right. Not a wild trade at the end of the day, but pretty close to where we went out at the end of the day. So wild stuff out there in the queues, but was it wild stuff in the single name equities today, listeners? Let's find out. Cost you 613,000 contracts to break into the top 10. Not explosive, but respectable. That gets us to our old pal BABA. Were things hot in China today? Well, the answer was an aggressive sell-off, off over $6, 6.12 or nearly 4% to the downside. BABA closing today 153.80, so off about exactly $6 on the day. Again, about 3.75% to the downside for BABA. Putting up 613,000 contracts on the hot option out there today, 38,000 of the 150 puts expiring today. Average price for these, 30 cents. Did we get there, listeners? We got close. Looks like 150.178 was the low. So if you bought these and you rode them through the end of the day, not a great do. Maybe you had some opportunities to try to scratch them as we got lower in the day. As we keep on rolling, speaking of getting lower, up to number 9, it's SoFi, selling off almost 60 cents or about 2%, closing 27.82, putting up 646,000 contracts for the number 9 spot today, the hot option in SoFi today. 27,000 of the 29s expiring today. Average price for these, 15 cents. And you know what? We did get there ever so briefly, 29.07. So you had an opportunity intraday to get the heck out of Dodge on these. If you rode them through the close and you bought them, maybe not the happiest of campers. But again, only 15 cents. As we keep on rolling to number 8, the Amazonians also giving up a little bit of the ghost today, off nearly $3 or about 1.25%, closing 234.69, putting up 688,000 contracts for the number 8 spot, the hot option out there today, 33,000 of the 237.5 calls. Average price for these, 55 cents, listeners. This was again opening paper, and once again we did get there, 238.73. So you did have your opportunities to get rid of these for more than half a buck if you were quick on the trigger finger. As we keep on rolling to number 7, the artist formerly known as Facebook, Meta, putting up 730,000 contracts today, selling off under half a buck, actually, about 43 cents. So not a huge move net for Meta on the day, even though they had a wider range intraday. They got as low as 595 in about a quarter. So wild stuff, but it was the 610 calls leading the dance in Meta today, 38,000 of those going up for $2.25. And we did get there, listeners. 613.68 was the high. So once again, if you bought these, even though they were pricey, you had a chance to get out for a profit, as long as you didn't ride them into the close. As we keep on rolling to number 6, good old micro strategy, aka strategy. We call it around here the monster, though. MSTR putting up 813,000 contracts for the number 6 spot. Closing today off $8.79 or about 4.25%, closing below the par strike, 199.75. Obviously, the weight continuing to the downside on Bitcoin and all the related names. The hot option out there, though, going back to the upside, 37,000 of the 215 calls. Average price for these, $4.13. And once again, they're not giving away the upside. Can strategy retrace 15 handles over the course of the next week? These are expiring next week, by the way, listeners. We'll stay tuned to it to find out as we keep on rolling to number 5, AMD. AMD closing today, 246.81, off about $1.15 or about 0.5%, putting up 946,000 contracts for the number 5 spot in our countdown today. The hot option, 72,000 of the 250 calls expiring today. Average price for these, $1.15. And did we get there? The answer was yes, 253.44. So once again, if you scoop these intraday and you were pretty quick on the trigger finger, you definitely had opportunities to pretty much double your money, if not more, as we keep on rolling to number 4. It's the fruit company, aka Apple, Selling off a little bit today, about half a buck, closing 272.41, putting up 977,000 contracts for the number 4 spot today, the hot option in Apple today. 104,000 of the 275 calls. Average price for these, 45 cents. Once again, we did get there, got up to 96 cents. You could have doubled your money. Once again, if you were quick on the trigger finger and you bought these, just didn't want to ride them to the close. As we keep on rolling to number 3, it's Palantir. It's a frequent offender. You know it's on the list. It's just a question of where. Today, closing pretty much 174 exactly, up about almost $2 or about 1% today, putting up 1.07 million contracts. And the hot option out there today, nearly 70,000 of the 170 puts. So going to the dark side. Average price for these, $1.16. And once again, we did get there, 164.50. That was the low right around the open. So you had some opportunities, but they were quick. You probably wanted to be a seller of these puts out here at the end of the day. Certainly if you're going to ride these through the close, listeners. As we keep on rolling to number 2. Yes, number 2, it's Nvidia. 190.17, bucking the trend, rallying about 3 1/3 or about 1 3/4% out there today, listeners. Putting up 3.66 million contracts. That's usually enough for the number 1 spot, but not today. And the hot option out there today, 402,000 of the 190s. Average price for these, 63 cents. We went out, listeners, 190.17. So you know you couldn't ride them through the close if you bought them. But you had some moments. The high was 191 today, so you did have an opportunity to get out of these for a profit. As we keep on rolling to number 1, you can probably guess what it is by now. It's our old pal Tesla. Tesla having quite the range today. 382.78 to the downside, 412.19 to the upside before settling out 404 and about 1/3, up about 2 1/3, or about 0.6% today. Putting up nearly 4 million contracts, 3.97 million to be precise. Taking the number 1 spot today. All week long, we've been talking about 420s, 430s, 440s, 450s, 460s, all of that premium going to die this week. We end up settling out right around the par strike, listeners. And what was the hot option out there in Tesla today? Once again, hope springing eternal to the upside. It was the 410s. Average price for these, $1.48. So obviously much more reasonable, but then not much time left, listeners. 248,000 of these going up today, again, for an average price of $1.48. And once again, if you were quick on the trigger finger, we did get there. The high was 412.19, so you did have opportunity, if you bought these, to get out for a profit. If you rode them through the close, obviously not a great trade. So interesting stuff out here in Tesla. Interesting stuff all week long. Remember, if you missed anything on the network, make sure you subscribe to the full podcast network, wherever you get your favorite podcast. A lot of great stuff waiting for you over there. And of course, check out the Pro, theoptionsinsider.com/pro if you want to get access to the show we just did, Options Oddities, talking a lot of unusual activity, as well as great pro Q&As like the one we did earlier this week with our good buddy, Mr. Tony Saliba, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. And of course, while you're visiting URLs, make sure you're checking out thehotoptionsreport.com. You literally owe it to yourself to get your hands on that free data. Get in there while the getting's good, thehotoptionsreport.com to learn more. That's going to do it for us on the network this week. Back again on Monday, kicking things off with the option block, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, followed by the crypto rundown. Then we tie it all up on Monday with another edition of the Hot Options Report. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.